Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Eric Mueller Show, a podcast where we explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. Today on the show, I'm welcoming another Chief Executive Officer and co-founder. Tigran Nazaryan has co-founded the company TenWeb. He, alongside his team of developers, dedicated years to developing the AI website builder to automate the website creation process. By letting algorithms take care of routine and time-consuming tasks, Tigran wants to enable web developers and designers to have more time for more important and creative tasks. As a new CEO, he aims at building a strong company culture that allows for a successful transition of great ideas into powerful technological advancements. Before delving deep into the world of web development, Tigran's educational background in mathematical physics led him to the academic sector. After obtaining a Ph.D., he left academia for industry, specializing in WordPress and web development. Next to building plugins and themes for WordPress with over 6 million downloads, he was also in charge of leading a team of web developers and guiding processes for the growth of engineers and the entire company. Listen for Tigran's 3 qualities of a successful startup company. Let's head on over to the interview. All right, welcome back to the Eric Mueller Show, a podcast where we explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. Today we're going to be talking technology. I've got a web development guru here for you, Tigran Nazaryan. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Eric. It's my pleasure to be your guest.
Man, it's my pleasure. So, I mean, in the presence of a web development guru, I mean, I can't speak for all of my listeners here, but I would consider myself kind of a work in progress on building websites. So I've used Wix to build a few. I've tried to dabble in learning to code HTML and things like that, but I'm a novice compared to you, man. So I want to start off with just a simple topic here. Could you define what a SaaS company is? SaaS. What that type of company is, and also maybe give an example of one of those companies that some people would recognize?
SaaS companies are companies whose main product and service is the software, which itself has the main value for their customers. So a lot of biggest companies are SaaS companies like Adobe, like Microsoft, and we know these companies behind their products. So their products are often very more famous than the companies behind them. So companies that create software used by consumers or by businesses or whatever. So TenWeb, our company, is also a SaaS company. We provide automated WordPress platform to our customers.
Yeah. So you mentioned TenWeb. So the company that you started, you co-founded that, and you're currently the chief executive officer of it. Do you have any advice? So using, you have a SaaS company of your own. How do you grow a company like that in a saturated market, one might say? So, I mean, you have big companies like you mentioned, Microsoft or Netflix, Hulu, these companies that are, really owning market share. And I know, Wix, Squarespace, other web development services are different than TenWeb. You got some advantages over them, but I guess just how would you grow a company like that in that type of market, Tigran?
Yeah, that's a great question. In our industry is web development, so site building, hosting, maintenance, and other related services. So in our industry, there are a lot of big companies like hosting companies like GoDaddy, or site builders like Wix or Squarespace or Webflow, or other companies providing like some smaller solutions, not all-in-one solutions or not big services, but small like pieces that fit into the puzzle. And it's general problem how you can create something that is in competitive market and that not only competes with the already big companies, but has its own distinctive value, which is different from others. And basically the success here is not to build something that directly competes with competitors. It's kind of hard. It's hard way. It's not the best way, but build something that differentiates itself from the competitors and basically avoids the competition. This is the key. And with SaaS companies, they are scalable. This is the top, I would say the top property of SaaS companies. They are scalable. You don't need to spend extra cost for every new unit, for producing every new unit, like in case of car.
Yeah.
It's not as scalable. But with the software, you just create it once and you need to distribute it.
Yeah. And, looking at your background, so you had an academic background at one point in time. You actually hold a Ph.D. And I believe, you have this interest in astrology and astronomy and whatnot. Is that right?
Yeah, I hold PhD in astronomy and astrophysics, not astrology.
Not astrology. All
Yeah,
right. All
not astrology. Yeah.
right.
So in astronomy and astrophysics, that's pure academic science. So at some point in my career, I switched from science to engineering,
Okay.
and I think that's quite the common thing. A lot of people they leave science, they leave academy for different reasons, and for some, perhaps the engineering is not so cool. It may appear not so cool as compared to science, because you want to become scientist, you want to discover something in the nature or in humans, but engineering and innovation is still very interesting thing. It's like science in the sense that you need to discover something, some problem, not in the nature, but like in human psychology or some problem in the specific industry, and to solve it. So there is a lot of research, there is a lot of invention, and perhaps some of inventions are related to building new technology. Some others are related to building new way of interaction, for example, of humans to computers, or of interaction of humans with certain tools they use, or providing completely new user experiences. So in this regard, it's very interesting, and I'm happy that I've switched to this industry of software development.
Yeah, and how did you make that shift? I guess what forced you, or what led you to take that more entrepreneurial route? So if you're in an industry position, or you're teaching and you have a PhD, you can be a professor. You probably have somewhat of a steady salary in that way. If you go out and be an entrepreneur, start a company like TenWeb, I mean, there's some risk associated with that, obviously. So what was your main motivation or driving force to do that and take that entrepreneur route?
Yeah, I was not entrepreneur at first. I became web developer, so engineer. Then I grew and became entrepreneur. But yeah, it's still interesting. In science, there's quite a big competition and a lot of uncertainty in science. A lot of, I would say, even more uncertainty than in founding your own startup.
Sure.
Because when you found your startup, you know at least what you want to do. But in science, you have some particular focus, but the system doesn't work much well, and a lot of people leave science for the industry. It's not about only money. Of course, there is much more money to startups in the industry, in the technology industry in particular, rather than science. But it's not about money only. You want to have a certain career path, and you want to think like, what will be my best achievement, or something that I'm proud of after certain, like 10 or 20 years. So in this regard, like entrepreneurship, it provides great opportunity for people to apply their creative potential.
Yeah. I think, and two, like kind of where my mind goes with Tigran is that, I think technology and innovation in regards to entrepreneurship, like where are we going? Where is the future moving towards? At least in my background with healthcare, we've seen COVID-19, shift the industry drastically. And, companies have had to change their business models to meet new needs and new demands. And we've seen people, not wanting to leave their house. So they need to order things in. They need to have services in that way. So I guess how can someone who wants to be an entrepreneur, what advice might you give them if they want to pursue founding of a new company in this technological, advancing age?
Yeah, that's important to found something that is competitive, that has a huge potential for growth, that's scalable, that solves specific problem rather than like tries to outcompete the competitors or do what others do a little better. It's not the way it works anymore. But I would recommend perhaps to think about particular problem you face in your industry. If you work, let's say, in retail, do you see any problem that is not solved there?
Okay.
Do you see anything that has a potential for a solution? Perhaps any specific technology may solve that, or perhaps any specific any specific tool, not perhaps much technologically advanced tool, but something that solves some specific problem. And I think every person in every industry, they have some problems. Perhaps these problems appear small. So at first step, you need to understand, is this your particular problem? Is it specific to your industry? What is the potential of solving that problem? How many people will be affected by that solution? So this is the idea stage, not first solution stage, but idea stage. You want to understand what is the problem and how big is that, rather than first jumping into the solution. So this is first step, and like estimating market size, estimating the potential improvement of that particular problem. Don't think big at that moment, because every startup starts small from certain market, certain perhaps niche market, and then grows either vertically or horizontally. And I would say perhaps for each industry, there are problems, and a lot of problems unsolved, and secrets are specific in the ways people use different products or solve their problems. So a lot of the secrets are related to human psychology and the way we think. Perhaps we think in a certain way, and we always were used to do something in a certain way. And now I imagine that there is something better way to do the same thing. So for the person who first understands that there is a real solution and better way of doing what we always do, are doing in a certain way, they perhaps will find great idea for inspiration and building their startup.
Yeah, so I think like that's at least how I think of it. Like there's many problems out there that are already being solved, but you might be able to do it better. So I think that's probably a good example of what you've done with your company 10Web. So would you maybe just share like what makes 10Web, what makes that company unique compared with like a Wix or Squarespace? I know your company uses WordPress, so I mean, just I guess share with the audience here, Tigran, what makes your company so unique.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we constantly think about that, and our vision is defined by that. What makes us unique, and what will make us unique in the future as well. It's constant like iteration. So in our case, we thought about problem of WordPress. WordPress is the most popular site building tool and content management system, which is even more than content management system. It's open source and very popular solution. So around 40% of websites in the world are powered by WordPress as of 2021. And we thought about WordPress as a really powerful tool, but we saw that there is a potential for automation there. Because compared to other platforms like Wix, which are easier to work with, of course, WordPress has more complexity. But a lot of stuff people are doing manually with WordPress. And it's quite fragmented in a sense that if you want to build website and build specific like solution, not only website, but like shop or provide some service to your customers through website, there are a lot of steps that are quite fragmented. You need first to go somewhere to find good hosting. Then you need to find good developer. Then you need to understand first that your site should be very fast, or your site should be beautiful, or understand how do you measure the success of your website, and how do you measure, for example, how do you keep it secure, etc. So all this stuff, there are certain solutions for that. But there is no single solution that automates all this. And particularly, we thought about people for whom site creation and site maintenance is their primary job. That's our web developers and web agencies or design or marketing agencies. So they build the majority of websites in the world, more than 80% of websites, and particularly the most complex websites. So that's why we thought that can we do something first for them rather than for people who want to just create a single landing page or single website, but for those who do the main hard job in web development industry. And our vision is that we want to automate the entire workflow of agencies, rather than doing a lot of things manual, like let's say drag and dropping any through some software solution, like some kind of builder, drag and dropping and building template. Can we do that automatically? Can we save time? Can we create quick demo websites for your customers? Like it's question to agencies. If you want to sell certain website to your customer, you need to code it, or you need to have at least some prototype. How much time do you spend for that? It's days, but does it pay back? Is it paid back with taking into account that perhaps the client would not like that, or other stuff? There are a lot of technical things in web development that are hard even for professionals, or not only hard but time consuming. Can we automate this stuff? For example, it's known that the website ranking is correlated with their speed. So the faster website is, the more it's liked by Google, higher search rank it has. So can we automate optimization of website speed? There are certain ways that developers are doing, and they work great. But can we automate it? Because doing that manually requires a lot of time. So particularly for us, it's the main advantage of our platform, as we are focused in automation of processes, and are focused in helping agencies to spare time, to cut costs, to find customers easily through software.
Yeah, and I know main focus of your company, you're using artificial intelligence, using automation to take the pressure off of the companies in that way so that they can be more creative and be able to, actually share their message in a way that takes the pressure of web development off them. So, I mean, myself even, I've got a very simplistic website for my podcast, but, if I were to even have tools that can make it a little more automated and push things on there so I could be more creative with it, I think, that would help me. So a very small sample size, I can see the applicability and the usefulness of your company, just in my example of the podcast website.
Yeah, right. And we think about technology as something that differentiates us as well. For example, in web development, there are a lot of traditional technologies like coding languages, but we think that automation can be driven by artificial intelligence as well. For example, artificial intelligence is not a single algorithm, but a bunch of different algorithms, techniques. And their goal is, for example, to classify something, or to make insights out of large data. And in our case, we thought about artificial intelligence algorithms as tool that replaces the routine work of web development. For example, I talked about creating web pages. It's quite routine work. It seems creative, but for simple web pages, it's quite routine. You know what you want to build. If you have certain design in mind and you want to build website like that, the rest is routine steps. You just copy, paste, drag and drop a little bit, change some colors, etc. So this can be automated, and this is where AI solutions are great. Another area where AI solutions are really great for solving specific problems is where you deal with a lot of data. So humans are not very skilled, I would say. When you have a lot of data, you need to make some insights out of data, and it's not something that it requires a lot of computational power. That's why AI is a great solution in these areas. If you have certain problem that you think will require a lot of data to make insights, so AI or certain data models may be a great solution for that type of problems as well.
Yeah, and I think it's super unique that the way you talk about data and really the need for it to tell a story. So if you just have a bunch of numbers, a bunch of data, it might not really say anything to anybody unless you have a very fine-tuned eye for it. So I'm sure you've seen, and you have a very specific craft as a web developer. The very technical aspects of it you understand to a T, but to an outside person looking in, they might not know it as well. So you can use your tools and automation to tell a story, and that's just using web development as an example. Let's say you have someone who has a startup company that has a technological focus, or maybe it has a totally different focus, but they can use the tools that you've created to be more creative and tell a story with the data that's going on in the background. Am I understanding that correctly, Tigran?
Yeah, to some extent, yes. I mean,
Sure.
for those who create websites, a lot of things can be automated, and what they so that they can focus on the more creative stuff and using like some ideas about website design or layout, they can create their own stuff automatically rather than through trial and through manual work. They can do it automatically. So, but there's a lot of things to do there as well. I mean, it's not it's some complete solution to some problem, but we would take into account the whole workflow of those who create websites. For example, there are a lot of stuff that can be automated, and for example, uh, agencies, they have a lot of customers. Yeah? And there is potential for automation there as well. You interact with their customers, perhaps they request some updates, some stuff manually, some things that you do manually. So this can be automated as well. In a sense that you can put some schedule, you can have some insight from your customers and set this like for updates automatically, or you can set like reporting to customers automatically. Yeah, I would say that this is the automation is one of the things that can be done in different type of industries, and where algorithms may replace or to say better, not replace but complement what humans do
Okay.
by helping people to automate the most routine, most boring or hard job, and instead of focusing to the creative.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And so Tigran, so when you started your company, so you let's just kind of dive a little more deeply in the entrepreneurship side of it. So I'm really curious to ask you how did you fund this venture? How did you market this? How did you get this off the ground, so to speak? You hear people when they start companies, they might bootstrap it and kind of take on all the financial risk themselves without getting investors. So share with me what the path was for 10Web in that way.
Yeah, that's a great question. First, I need to say that the core team of 10Web was from the previous company I worked at.
Okay.
So we're four co-founders. So basically, close the previous company. We say, "Come on, guys, let's gather together and build something new from scratch. Something just, but not from scratch with regarding the expertise." So we already had some good core team. Particularly, we had great engineering team at that point. Later, we built and we gathered more people, like for marketing and other stuff. But the first point is that we built product having in mind certain problem, but we experimented a lot. So that's essential part, experimentation. And the important thing here is to have quick feedback loop. So you have certain idea in mind that you think that this thing should be done this way, and I'll do that, and it will be great for customers. Okay, let's test that idea first. Let's create something really small. It's called MVP, minimum viable product. Don't solve the biggest every challenge that there is. Just solve something small, even not perfect way. Just provide some solution to like the main case of that problem and see, does it work or no. If this works, okay, so we can build the next step based on feedback. So we experimented a lot. We thought about what is the main value of the platform. What should be the main value? Is it just web hosting? Is it just a bunch of different tools? Or is there something common within that platform, or something that should be the core value? Because a lot of problems in web development. We can create a lot of tools for every problem there are, but should be our focus like that. So it's kind of it was called like kind of Frankenstein product. When the product that tries to encompass every feature, every problem, tools for solving every problem. It's not good way.
Yeah.
But starting small and then going bigger. So we were bootstrapped, and we raised a seed round a few months ago from Sierra Ventures and AI Fund. It was in April. But before that, we were bootstrapped. So there is risk, of course, associated with the startup, creating your startup. So if you have certain income, and you have, how much you can invest in that venture, which may fail, of course. That's great. You need to calculate the risk, of course. And I think that's a great way to start from small, then validate the hypothesis about the problem. Then perhaps the problem part was right, and then validate your solution. Perhaps you understood the problem well, but your solution is not what is needed. So let's do one more iteration.
Yeah, I think, and the main focus that I pull out of that, really, and the main piece that I want people listening to really, hear from what Tigran just said, is that proof of concept piece. So make sure that what problem you think you're solving, that you actually have like a market for that people are willing to spend their hard-earned dollars on that, and that it actually works. So you want to make sure that you have that proof of concept before you go too far. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think there's got to be startups out there that they think they've got it solved. They fund a bunch of money in, they bring venture capital in, and then they later find out that their product or service doesn't work. And then they have all these people. I mean, they lost their money. They might have lost their chance, to get money in the future potentially. So they may have burnt bridges from investment companies. So I think that's really great that you hammered that home to make sure you have a proof of concept that works. So you create 10Web and you start to see that it's having some success. You have a great team. I think that's a good focus there as well. You have a great team of people that built it with you and that were there for you when you were starting it. So, Tigran, how do you define success? What is success to you? How did you know that 10Web was being successful? A big focus of this show is looking at what makes successful people operate. So I want to ask you, what is success to you?
Yeah, that's a good question, because success is not profit. And in case of startups, they are not profitable and 90% of them fail.
That's right.
For some startup or some person's success may be getting experience from failed startup to build the next one that will not fail. Or in our case, the success is our vision and do we come closer to that vision. Yeah. So the vision is to automate web development, to make it painless, to make it easy, to make people more effective in this regard. So I would say that enhancing the potential of those who create websites. So success metrics are number of people who use the product in our case, or the level of automation they implement in their workflow. Do they only build websites with 10Web, or do they also maintain and do the rest of the stuff? So it's kind of, I would say it's engagement of customer. You may have a lot of customers, but they don't have any engagement. So it's not only about number of customers, but the way that whether your product is usable for them. So in our case, whether our product automates the workflow of those who create websites.
Yeah. So you measure success in that way in regards to your company. Do you have a broader definition of what it means to you personally? Are you, so you said profit is not the main focus for success. So if you are able to successfully automate, web development, 10 years from now, everybody's using 10Web to do that, you would say that you've created lasting change, you've been successful. Does that sound right, Tigran?
Yeah, I would say that I was successful in creating something that is usable by millions of people. That's impact, the measure of impact.
Yeah.
What you have created, how many people's lives are affected by that. That's really great measure.
Yep. I think it makes me think of a quote by Elon Musk. It's, you are paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of the problem that you solve. So that's something I think about that just in my day to day, as in pharmacy, like, you garner a certain salary because the problems that you solve are very, you're dealing with people's lives. So it's important. So I think, also, for me, I mean, entrepreneurship and profit, I mean, it is glamorous to think about making a lot of money and making, creating something that reaches millions of people. Obviously, you're probably gonna get a certain amount of monetary return on that. But what does giving back mean to you, Tigran? I mean, do you have a vision of how you would like to pay it forward? I mean, do you have any thoughts about how one might, take their entrepreneurial spirit, but also suppress their ego and know they're doing it for the right reasons and they're pushing humanity forward without taking too much, hold of that monetary gain?
Yeah, That's very kind question, and that's really nice, beautiful question. Yeah, there are several things we can, and I would like to pay back. For example, the community of people who created the open source platform WordPress. So one of the ways we pay back, like becoming sponsors of different events or paying back to open source code. This is first, because the open source platforms, they have this distinctive feature that it's hard to make profit on or to earn money on open source products without paying back and without the community of those who support that product. So first is open source product, paying back to that. Second is that the spirit of entrepreneurship and knowledge that we have. We want to help other startups as well. For example, the programs for our startups in our local community, we provide 1 year hosting to them for free, or sharing our expertise in fundraising or our expertise in scaling businesses with them. So we think that the startups and technologies can do a lot of things, and we want to help others to do their to create their own as well. So this is second. Third one is for our local community. I live in Armenia. Our startup is US company, but personally I live in Armenia, and it's a small country.
Yeah.
And it's growing. Its IT industry is growing really fast. And we want to pay back to that industry in a sense that help people to become more qualified, let's say engineers or professionals in that industry. So it means also paying back to education, paying back to science and to technology, and helping others who, for example, work in other industry to switch to IT industry as well. And the success of one startup, it may become viral for others as well. So they don't think that they are not in the United States, they are not in the Valley and the Silicon Valley, so it's not the best conditions for building your own startup.
Yeah.
You can build global startup anywhere in the world.
Yeah. That's a great point. I love that you mentioned that you're living outside the US, but you're leading a US company. I think there might be someone listening right now that's in the same spot, or they might be aspiring to do that. So just know you can do it. Don't be discouraged. A small way that Tigran has given back right now is actually if you go to his website, or his company's website, 10web, that's 10web.io, there's a free 14-day trial to try it out. So, I mean, I think I certainly will be doing that. I'm certainly going to try that out and see what you have going on there. And Tigran, I appreciate you being on the show, man. I want to bring it back and tie a bow on it here and ask you one final question. It's the core question of the show. So when I started the show, I really wanted to explore what makes any successful person's inner clock tick. It's kind of become my inner mantra, and it really helps me figure out just what it takes to get to that level of success that you people that you aspire to be are at. So what is the one single driving force that keeps your inner clock ticking towards your success in your daily life?
First, not single, but two.
Let's go. Yeah.
Persistence and being humble.
Okay. Those are phenomenal. I mean, it's short and sweet, but it's profound, and it makes you think. So you're persistent in your daily actions. You're progressing slowly towards your goals each and every day, and you're maintaining that humble, mindset. You can, I can sense it. I mean, I can see on camera here. The audience can just hear you, but I'm sure you can hear it in Tigran's voice. Just the nature, the humble nature that he has, and wanting to give back and wanting to pay it forward. He's not in this for the money. He's not in it for the fame. If his company becomes, a unicorn, a startup unicorn, it's going to be great, because you'll be one of the ones that people will look up to and say he's doing it the right way, and it'll be very inspirational. So, yeah, Tigran, I appreciate you being on, man. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge with us today on the show.
Thank you very much, Eric. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Absolutely, man. Best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.